You're mid-sentence in a meeting when you say the wrong name, or you trip over nothing in a crowded hallway and you feel it before you even register what happened. Heat crawling up your neck, into your cheeks, into your ears. You can't stop it. You can't hide it. Your face just betrays you in front of everyone, lighting up like a warning sign for a mistake you'd give anything to take back. Now here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. No other animal on Earth does this. Not a single one of the millions of species that share this planet with you has ever been documented turning red from embarrassment. Somewhere in your evolutionary past, humans developed a physical reaction that does nothing to help you survive, nothing to help you fight, nothing to help you run. And yet it's still here, wired into your face thousands of generations later. So the question is simple. If blushing serves no obvious survival purpose and no other animal does it, why did evolution give humans a reaction that literally broadcasts our most vulnerable emotional moments to everyone watching? Let's start with the mechanics, because understanding what's actually happening in your body is stranger than you'd expect. Here's what doesn't make sense until you think about it. Blushing isn't a psychological trick or a metaphor. It's a real, measurable, physiological event. When you feel embarrassed, your sympathetic nervous system triggers a release of adrenaline, which causes the blood vessels in your face, specifically the tiny capillaries just under the skin, to dilate. Research led by psychologist Ray Crozier at Cardiff University has spent decades studying this exact reflex, and one detail keeps showing up again and again. Blushing happens almost exclusively on the face, ears, and upper chest, the parts of your body that are hardest to hide and easiest for other people to see. Think about that for a second. If blushing were simply a byproduct of stress, you'd expect it to happen anywhere blood vessels exist. Instead, it concentrates precisely where an audience is watching. That's not a malfunction. That's a broadcast system. Here's the part nobody talks about, though, because it's the detail that flips this entire mystery on its head. Charles Darwin himself was fascinated by blushing, so much so that he devoted an entire chapter to it in his 1872 book, The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals. Darwin called it the most peculiar and most human of all expressions. And he noticed something that still holds up in modern research. Blushing requires self-awareness. It requires you to understand that other people are watching you, judging you, forming opinions about you, and to care deeply about what those opinions are. Dogs don't blush. Chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, don't blush. Even the smartest, most socially complex animals on the planet show no evidence of this reaction, because as far as we can tell, they don't experience the specific cocktail of self-consciousness and social exposure that triggers it in us. Which means blushing isn't really about your blood vessels at all. It's about your mind knowing it's being watched. So why would evolution build something so specific, so seemingly self-defeating? This is where the story gets genuinely clever, because the answer isn't about hiding your mistakes. It's about advertising your honesty. Evolutionary psychologists studying this question, including work published by researcher Matthew Feinberg at the University of Toronto in 2012, found something remarkable when they tested how people respond to others who blush after making a social mistake. Participants consistently rated people who blushed after an embarrassing moment as more trustworthy, more likable, and more forgivable than people who showed no visible reaction at all. The blush wasn't read as weakness, it was read as proof. Here's what that actually means, and it's worth sitting with for a second. In a small hunter-gatherer band, tens of thousands of years ago, reputation wasn't a minor social concern. It was survival. You depended on your group for food, protection, and cooperation, and a member who consistently violated social rules without any visible remorse was a genuine threat to group stability. But a blush was different. A blush was an involuntary, impossible-to-fake signal that said, "I know I broke a rule, and it bothers me." You couldn't control it. You couldn't strategically deploy it, and that's exactly what made it valuable. A signal is only useful to a group if it can't be faked, and blushing, unlike a fake apology or a rehearsed smile, is almost entirely outside conscious control. That's the twist. Blushing isn't a flaw in the system. It's the proof the system needed. Now here's where anthropology adds another layer, because this isn't just theoretical psychology, there's cross-cultural evidence backing it up. Anthropologist Ekman conducted extensive facial expression research across dozens of cultures throughout the 20th century, including isolated populations in Papua New Guinea with minimal contact with the outside world, and found that basic emotional expressions, including the physiological markers associated with shame and embarrassment, showed remarkable consistency across radically different societies. That consistency matters because it suggests blushing isn't a learned social custom passed down through specific cultures. It's closer to a universal human hardware feature, something baked into our biology well before agriculture, before writing, before any of the cultural institutions that shape modern manners and etiquette. Here's the insight that reframes the whole thing. If blushing showed up independently in isolated human populations across completely different environments, that's strong evidence it evolved for a reason deep in our shared evolutionary past. Not because one culture happened to invent politeness and everyone else copied it. Let's talk about why this matters specifically for humans and not for any other social animal, because plenty of other species live in complex groups too. Wolves live in structured packs, elephants maintain intricate social bonds across generations. Chimpanzees form alliances, hold grudges, and even reconcile after conflicts. But none of them blush, and researchers studying primate cognition, including work associated with primatologist Frans de Waal, point to a specific missing ingredient. None of these species appear to experience anything resembling human-level reputational self-monitoring. The constant background awareness of what do others think of me right now in this specific moment. Chimpanzees can recognize social hierarchy. They can respond to dominance and submission. But the layered, obsessive self-consciousness that makes a human wince at a bad joke they told 3 days ago, that appears to be something closer to uniquely human. Here's what nobody tells you about this part, though. That obsessive self-consciousness likely isn't a bug either. It's connected to something much bigger, the size and complexity of human social groups. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar's research, published throughout the 1990s, calculated what's now known as Dunbar's number, suggesting humans evolved to comfortably maintain social relationships with roughly 150 people, a group size far larger than what most other primates manage. Larger groups mean more reputations to track, more relationships to maintain, and dramatically higher stakes for social mistakes. Blushing, in this light, isn't a random glitch. It's a tool built specifically for a species that had to navigate social complexity no other animal on Earth had ever faced. Bigger groups needed better signals. Evolution built one directly into your face. Zoom out for a second because there's something bigger happening underneath all of this. Every problem that human social complexity created, the risk of being seen as untrustworthy, the danger of violating group norms, the constant pressure of being watched and judged by dozens of people simultaneously, got answered by a mechanism your body deploys without asking your permission. You don't choose to blush any more than you choose to flinch from a hot stove. And that's precisely the point. A signal you can fake is worthless to the people around you. A signal you can't control is priceless because it's the only kind of honesty that can't be performed. Here's the part that should genuinely humble you. The very thing that feels like your body betraying you in your most humiliating moments is, according to decades of research across psychology, anthropology, and evolutionary biology, one of the most sophisticated trust-building tools your species ever developed. It's not a flaw sitting alongside your other emotional reactions. It's arguably one of the reasons humans were able to build cooperation at a scale no other species on the planet has ever managed, because a species that could visibly, involuntarily prove its remorse could trust its members in ways that species without that signal simply couldn't. That reframes the whole picture, doesn't it? The reaction you spend your whole life trying to suppress might be one of the most important tools that ever let humans function as a group at all. Zoom out even further, and this becomes almost philosophical. We tend to think of embarrassment as something purely negative, a malfunction we'd delete from ourselves if we could. But blushing tells a different story. It tells you that your body, without asking your permission, is constantly working to preserve your place inside a group, flagging your mistakes not to punish you, but to prove to everyone around you that you're still someone worth trusting. That heat rushing into your face isn't weakness. It's tens of thousands of years of social evolution, compressed into a 2-second physiological reflex still running exactly as designed. So the next time you feel that heat crawling up your neck after saying the wrong name in a meeting or tripping over nothing in a crowded hallway, notice what's actually happening. Your face isn't malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do hundreds of thousands of years ago, proving, in a way words never could, that you're still trustworthy, still paying attention, still one of the group. Your ancestors built entire societies on trust they couldn't verify with contracts or paperwork or background checks. Blushing solved that. It answered the problem of fake apologies with a signal no one could fake. It answered the problem of large, complex social groups with a built-in honesty detector written directly into human skin. You didn't inherit a glitch, you inherited proof